How's it going? You Sergeant Morgan by chance?
What's that?
I was hoping you were Sergeant Morgan. You're not? Or Montgomery. Sergeant Montgomery.
Montgomery?
Yeah. He's a sergeant right now at WC, right?
Yeah.
All right.
You talked to someone?
No, I talked to Sergeant Montgomery. We had something earlier today. We're a missionary group. They do silver program across country. And Ashland, one of the things we've learned is that unfortunately there's a fine line between activism and missionary work these days. You know, you can understand we run into a lot more cops than you would imagine we did back in the 90s. So earlier today, we've never been through Ashland yet, Asheville here. This is a new area, but we know there's a church that reached out for us, reached out to us and said there were rights violations going on by the PD here. So we sent our auditors out today. I was one of the auditors we sent out, and we have body cams typically. I took a, does this seem to be an ongoing problem in this area of trespassing being like issued without the authorized agent? I gave you a lot of words. I mean, it's a complicated matter. If you can imagine, as a missionary, this all started about 8 years ago. We had a sign that said "Socks for the Homeless," which is a solicitation. You're asking for socks for the homeless, and it was printed on a big fast signs banner. And the cops in the area, this was in Orlando, Florida, cops in the area would come by and donate, and like the fire department and everything, because we're a church. I mean, so I don't wear my suit intentionally. And this is why, is that I was wearing a suit at the time. We changed over the sign to a cardboard sign, immediately police interactions. So I said, well, is this a fashion policing situation? Like, our police, this is Orlando, but now here we are in Asheville, and we're getting complaints, not just from Asheville, but on the internet now. We have a national group of people who do sower program, which is sowing seeds across country. So we would be first line of defense when it comes to civil rights violations to the homeless, because they don't have a big advocacy groups. I mean, honestly, there's not a whole lot of them, and there's not a big budget where there is one. So that's what has brought us out to Asheville, is to audit the situation that we see. And I'm not one to try to bombard cops, you know. I don't want to but if there's something going on like that, we have to address it. So we're pulling FOIA requests to find out, you know, how things are dealt with in Asheville, and we are getting on the ground data, and this is the data I got today. What is your name?
I'm Officer Nee.
Nee, nice to meet you. Nee. You're very professional, by the way. I mean,
you know, that's how I conduct myself. And
Stromolo is very professional too. I have no complaints about that. It was. I think with the assumed authority program, what we've learned is that police officers can sometimes believe something to be true that's not. Like where property lines might be, beginning and end, they're not survey lines, and then, or where authority is, who has authority over what property. And so that's what brings the assumed authority about, and then that our program is more of an education program. So yeah, that's what. So yeah, I stopped you. I stopped you because I wanted to get more data, and then I saw this other guy coming in with blues, and I'm like, oh, okay. I saw him pulling with blues. And I'm like, where does he go with his blues all solid like that?
It's our cruise light, so
oh, you just leave them so people can see them.
It's dark outside, and sometimes people don't see like our decals on our cars, like how they reflect.
Oh, because you don't have reflect, like some places have the reflecting ones.
But sometimes when it's dark, you can't really see it. So having those lights on, it just makes us more visible that way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought I was keeping you from a call the whole time. I was like, did you get a call, bub? Yeah, so what I was telling him about, Officer Nee, is my name is Pastor Andrew Stevens. I'm with the Church of Common Good. We're in a sower program to travel the country, and we do missionary work cross country. But what we've learned over the last few years, 8 years, is that there's been a kind of a change since 2007, really, that when the housing market was collapsed, and a lot of people were more homeless. I guess you'd call them homeless. And then some people decided to go back to housing. Some people got RVs. Some people got, there's been a big shift in the way humans in America reside and live their life. In Asheville, we got complaints over our server that there were police officers that were enforcing trespassing in a way that trespassing is not supposed to be enforced. Well, we have several complaints. One of them was talking about how police officers were trespassing people off of private property without the authorized agent of the property making a complaint.
Were there signs?
Well, House rules are privately enforced. So
if there's signs on the property that says no trespassing, that's just...
Oh, yeah, that's private property. That's not private property, public access. That's private property, like, entirely. Would be no trespassing.
Yeah. It's
so,
the same thing with businesses, too.
No, businesses have private property, public access. So you can't... No trespassing, it can't be discriminatory.
If I own a business and I say get out of my business, I need to have a reason?
No, because you're the authorized agent.
But if there's a sign that says no trespassing, it's just as good. That's the way it works in North Carolina. If there's a sign that says no trespassing after certain hours, or somebody comes out there and says, hey...
So when you say that's the way it works in North Carolina, I appreciate those words, but what I appreciate more is penal codes. So in North Carolina, what you're saying is that North Carolina, the state, has a penal code that allows the police officers that are tax paid to then enforce a house rule on like a trespassing order. Like
if they have a sign that says no trespassing and they have a letter on file that says that...
a letter of intent?
That they won't press charges on anybody trespassing.
Right.
Then no, you can't hang out there. Because then you are trespassing.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because
what we do is we're like, hey, you can't hang out here. You got to go find somewhere else to hang out.
Right.
And most people, they will get out and they go do that.
Yeah.
But
sure.
If they refuse to, or if they come back, then it becomes
criminal.
An issue.
Now, and that's what I'm asking. So, because people lose their freedoms this way. So this is the situation in America. People lose their freedoms this way. It's very important for us to establish where the legislation has begun and ended. So what it sounds like you're telling me, and don't let me, I'm not putting words in your mouth, is that in the state of North Carolina, if a private business with a public access parking lot puts up hours of trespassing hours. So you can't have, say, overnight parking. I think Walmart's got one over there. So if they have a sign up that has, this is a rule of our property that is public access, but we are still private owners, and we don't want people to be staying overnight, and then they sign a letter of intent, which I've read those, I've many of those on my FOIA requests, and those say that if you're breaking any laws, then they can be enforced by police officers.
Well, they can also say, hey, we don't want anybody just loitering hang out in our parking lot.
Well, I've never seen a letter of intent give house rules because it's not enforceable by legislation.
If they verbally tell us, like, hey, we've had issues with people loitering in our parking lots, would you guys mind doing ride-through, just make sure it's not happening? If they are, just move them along.
So you have a loitering law?
That's yes.
Okay, what's the loitering statute? Like, what's I guess the Muni Code, right? Like an ordinance?
If there's any business, most of these businesses have a loitering. They don't want you to just hang out.
I know. I'm asking you. So you're a city officer. I don't care about the businesses. That's the house rules. I mean, how businesses I have. Yeah. So I own businesses.
A lot of these properties, like
our church has private security.
Here are rented from a property management.
Right.
Property management can also say we don't want anybody just hanging out in our parking lot.
Okay, so I'm hearing all these house rules. I get it. I totally understand the concept of house rules. So what I'm asking you, because I have properties we own as well, and I have to pay a cop the detail money, which is actually more than they actually earn normally. So that in order to have a cop enforce my house rules. So I'm asking you, what is your loitering ordinance? Because obviously they have legislation, have definitions, and it would have people would talk to the city council and decide how that would be written.
If there's signs saying no loitering, then we...
No, but your ordinance, like you're
that's what I'm trying to explain to you, but you keep...
It'd be a number. It'd be a number.
Okay, well, do you know all the numbers off your head?
Well, I mean, I gotta look it up for you.
I can look it up too, but what I'm saying is, if there's no sign saying anything about loitering,
right,
we usually...
It wouldn't be up to you, yeah.
Because, I mean, that's up to the business. Now, if they put up a sign and they say don't want the loitering, then we usually just move along.
Right. Well, I appreciate it. Well, I'm trying to figure.
And most people do just move along.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
It's no big deal. So.
It isn't. But so we have an assumed authority program, and what the assumed authority program is, many acres of land. America's obviously one big land mass, and so land is restricted from human beings. You know, there's a 13th, 14th Amendment. You know, a lot of people want to restrict land from black people.
The 13th Amendment was anti-slavery.
Well, they can't discriminate only for black people. It's for everybody. Yeah, well, but yes, it prevented Kentucky from stopping black people from going to Ohio, for sure. Yeah. And it prevented North Carolina from stopping black people from reaching north of North Carolina.
It's for free slave rights.
You got it. But it also extends to all Americans. Yeah, well, so the spirit of the law wasn't for blacks. It was for all Americans.
Of course. I mean, that's the way it should be.
Right, 100%. So when you have freedom of movement, you have the freedom of we're all United States citizens. Yeah. And so we have the basic freedom of all public property until it is purchased, or the rights are purchased from some way from a deed. which are survey lines. So at that point in time, someone else is taking over responsibility. But in America, we're finding that the most unfortunate or disenfranchised people in this country are seeing laws be applied to them that are not within the legislation of the law. So what I'm trying to establish, I still haven't figured it out, is whether okay, when you say you do things that, because obviously that means you do run people off of places. Yeah. Sure, absolutely. Now, what I'm trying to figure out, and the reports we're getting, is that sometimes, maybe not all the time, police are doing so in a way that's not supported by legislation. So when I ask you what legislation you would use, I would just want to figure that out.
So you got city ordinances.
Right.
You're well aware that North Carolina has laws that they enforce that might be different from other states. So also in the Constitution it says that the federal government does allow the states to make laws
to narrowly tailor to meet the needs of their public safety.
Other than trespassing and loitering, what else is going on?
Well, okay, so trespassing and loitering.
I may not agree with the law.
Right. Well, see, the thing is, we can't change laws that don't exist. That's what I'm trying to say.
I might not agree with it, but it's still a law.
But no, if it is, so far what I'm talking about has never proven to be a law. What we're discussing are police officers acting in ways that are not according to legislation. You can't lobby against a law that doesn't exist. So if there is no legislation that requires the enforcement that we're being reported, which I don't want to stop any shooting if you're okay. Yeah. So if there's no legislation about it, then or the legislation reads in a way, but poor people don't typically have lawyers on hand. They don't have lawyer money. So oftentimes disenfranchised people are treated in ways that you wouldn't treat someone who had a lawyer on standby.
I tell you, I have never gave anybody a citation for loitering. Everybody usually just moves along. It's no problem.
But that's still dictating somebody's movement. So if it's a civil rights violation, it's still a civil rights violation.
At a sign that says no trespassing, no loitering, and then we got us to move along. I mean, what's better, to move along, or is it better to get a citation?
Yeah, I can't find a loitering ordinance in your city Municode at all. So you have one though, right?
Yeah, there is for loitering.
There is one for loitering. Okay.
That usually kind of goes around with trespassing.
Okay, I can read the trespassing one, because loitering is a different law, and most municipalities is discussed on different minutes.
What YouTube channel do you have?
I have 4 of them. I was one of the very first.
Now, are you sovereign citizen, or are you more?
No, hell no.
Are you first?
I was a pastor at church, and I was telling them how it happened.
Are you first?
No, they came later. We were 8 years old. So First Amendment auditors were after us. I think they saw what we were doing. What we did.
I think what we're going to get at is.
If you're enforcing laws,
I don't think we're going to agree on.
We don't have to agree. If there's legislation that supports your actions, then they don't have to agree.
I mean,
but if you're
there's things that I have to enforce that no matter if I agree with them, I have to enforce it. Right?
But if you're pillaging civil rights, I'm not saying you are. If you are pillaging on civil rights of people who are less fortunate, that's something we want to know. And I don't think America would agree with it.
So should people without money be allowed to just go break laws?
No, but we're talking about laws again. I can't find them.
So
which laws?
Should they be able to loiter or trespass?
Well, it depends on the law or not. If there's a law, they can't break laws. These are laws.
Should I apply it to certain people and not others?
Well, if you're talking about laws, which laws are you talking about?
I mean, I apply, everything to me applies evenly to everybody.
I just need to know the law you're talking about. Yeah, I agree, 100%.
I don't care what your financial status is.
Right, but see, the thing is,
there are some people that's got better than others.
So trespassing typically requires a property owner asking someone to leave.
It could be verbal. It could be a sign. It could be a written.
On purely private property, you are 100% right. On private property with public access. I wouldn't contest that on the side of the road, because I don't know for sure, and Asheville knows
this is a private property that they allow the public to come into. Now,
also tax.
Now they can make any rule. They can say
tax abatements.
Say you got to wear a clown suit to come shop here.
I don't get a tax abatement on my driveway.
So
you see, but
your tax dollars don't pay for this.
No,
right?
tax abatements do. So I don't get a tax abatement on my driveway. The city still wants my property taxes every single year.
So what's your question?
So what I'm saying is, when you're talking about subsidized property that's subsidized by taxpayers, that's why it's private property, public access.
Okay.
So
does your tax dollars pay for Coles to be here?
The tax abatement that Coles got in order to get here.
Coles to be here is that they sell products that everybody buys, and they take that money to maintain the store.
But they don't pay taxes to the city because of abatement on it.
Huh?
They have an abatement on the taxes on the city.
I know, but does your tax dollars specifically pay for this building?
I'm sure that tax abatement, my tax dollars definitely. The state of North Carolina definitely gets money from the federal government.
For that to be.
Well, it's the state of
property altogether. I mean, your tax dollars have to pay for it.
The state. For be public, if you want all the way public property, yes. So for sure.
So I mean, this is their parking lot. They can say we don't want anybody in our parking lot a certain amount of time. It doesn't matter.
But they can hire security, sure.
They can literally look at me right now and say, "Get out of my parking lot."
Sure, they can. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. What we're discussing is when a law doesn't exist. So you're discussing laws that do exist. So trespassing requires an owner or authorized agent to trespass someone. If the police, which it does sound like I'm right here, and we're just like kind of beating around the bush. It sounds like the reports are true that police officers are enforcing something like a trespassing law in situations that don't meet the legislative requirements. Well, you said trespassing, but you said loitering.
Trespassing or there's not trespassing?
Well, you said trespassing, you said loitering, and then you said trespassing.
It either exists or it doesn't exist.
Well, no, I'm just using your words. You mentioned...
And I've arrested for trespassing. So therefore, in order for me to do that, that law has to exist.
Well, yeah, it does.
It doesn't. It's either it does or it
doesn't. But you don't know the elements of it, though, right?
What, for trespassing?
Yeah, the elements of the law.
Either you could be told verbally,
yep.
You could be written.
By who?
You can sign a written statement if they want it. They can put a sign up that says no trespassing.
Huh?
All that's good.
Okay.
All that's required for somebody to say no trespassing.
Okay, okay.
Now, if that person refuses to obey that, then yes, it could be a trespassing charge.
Well, yeah, sure. You're talking about private property rights. I mean,
now,
makes perfect sense.
If they're like, okay, we'll get up and leave, then that's the end of it. They just get up and leave, and that's all.
Well, that's because the law's written that way. It's considered a warning at first.
And most business owners, they're like, hey, you can't just be sitting outside my door. You got to go somewhere else.
Oh, sure, because you don't want to have people sitting like down outside the business door.
Yeah. And
Gotcha.
Most people do get up and leave.
Okay, well, I guess I guess maybe I was wrong. I was thinking more about lines maybe woods. When you
now let's say it was. They said, how do we know it's not private property and what's state property?
Well, are you doing the due diligence to find out if you're on state or private property?
If it's state property, there's a sign that says state property, right? Then I wouldn't have jurisdiction on that.
That'd be public access.
That would be the state.
Yeah.
If it says no trespassing, then
you'd have inside the city.
If it's inside the city, it's still trespassing.
Right.
Because the sign says no trespassing.
Right. So you guys don't clean up. No, you know this video's all over the internet, right? So I mean, I'm sure. But something. I think Sprinkle guy did that. So Charlie Sprinkle did that shit with Reagan in the '80s, man. Like they're crazy. Hey, you can't have sovereign citizenship inside America. This makes sense.
I'm familiar with all of that.
Well, are you familiar with a pastor from a church? We had a sign. And when that sign was written on cardboard...
There's getting to be so many people out there now that it's hard to keep up with everybody.
Okay, so that wasn't a group. What I'm saying is we have a church, and we started a sower program. But what we did was a little different. So Jesus said...
Are you a church that's recognized?
Oh, yeah. We have federally recognized church with 2 locations.
Is this a group that gets together?
No, we have...
There's also the Westboro Baptist Church out of Kansas.
I don't know what the hell they are. I don't know if they are or not. I know...
disgusting people.
Yeah, I've seen the things they do online. No, we are a church. We have 2 locations.
That's awesome, man.
So, but yeah, we had a solar program, and the trustees said so we went to Orlando. I was telling him the story. We had this big sign that said "Socks for the Homeless." We were collecting socks for the homeless shelter in Orlando.
That's a great thing. I've seen people do that.
Yeah, and it was done on our flash signs. We had like $80, I think we paid to have it done, and it was a really nice sign. And cops come by, fire department, and donate their socks and stuff like that, and we take them in. Well, one month I got the idea that with Jesus. He said to his disciples that when you go minister in my name, you go without any copper, silver, gold, or any 2 pair of tunics. The Son of Man have no place to lay his head. Follow me. So there's a lot of stories about a traveler who's traveling with no money, no resources. So it was really odd that I was able to buy this big banner to have this. And I was like, well, what if we did it on a cardboard sign? So we made the same exact sign, Socks for the Homeless, on a cardboard sign. Tell me what you think happened.
Where were you standing?
Same place I was with the sign, on International Boulevard. Same exact place I was with the other sign that we ran for 2 weeks.
Was there trespassing signs?
No, it was public property.
Did you have permission? Did you have a permit to solicit in the city?
Well, it's Florida, so all churches do.
Well, no, you still have to have a permit.
No, you don't. Not for churches. You can't infringe on First Amendment rights.
You have to have permit.
No, permit is a tax. You can't tax a church.
So, okay.
Yeah, you mean
fire department also collects money on the street.
Well, we sued and won for $50,000 on that one. Okay. So the court decided I was right. So what happened from there was we found ourselves in a lawsuit, which was something new to us.
What happened with the $50,000?
We invested in the church.
Did you?
Yeah, we bought a ranch out in Winslow.
Did you invest it by donating to homeless organizations?
Yeah, we built a ranch out in Winslow as an encampment for people who.
So some people do good things.
Matter of fact, one of the guys we just picked up one of the guys here from Kentucky who lost his home.
That's great.
His mom died.
I'm curious because that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't the first one. We wasn't the last one. That was the first one. Okay. Since then, that was 8 years ago. Since then, we've collected right about $400,000 in settlements.
So what are you doing now?
Well, we were passing through Asheville.
Trying to get your rights violated, so you
well, you shouldn't have to try. You can't try to get your rights violated. That's a weird thing.
They purposely go out there and they try to.
Yeah, those are your First Amendment guys. Those came up after us because they like money, So they saw what we did and they looked like said, "Here's where you make money."
Every city is different. I know out here that you have to have a permit from the city to solicit.
Well, soliciting has a definition too. Do you know that definition?
That's like asking money or anything.
Well, no, there's actual real definition.
Like it could be anything. It could be like asking money.
Well,
asking for donations.
There's a real there's a real definition, and what I'm saying is you should be aware. And I think that maybe ignorance might be a problem. Because
when I say solicit, I could ask you for anything, right?
Well, that's not how laws are written. So laws are written.
I said, hey, I need you to give me a hug. That's soliciting you for a hug, right?
Well, no.
If I say I need some money, that's soliciting you for money, right?
Well, I don't know. I haven't read your definition.
Anything that I'm asking for would be soliciting for.
In the municipal code, at the very beginning of all chapters, there's a definitions. In every single city, in order to have a no soliciting law, you have to define solicitation. Now, I haven't looked up Asheville's, but there would definitely be an actual legislation.
Sidewalks, anything like that, and you're asking for anything that would
for direct donation or something like that, maybe.
You would have to have a permit for that.
Yeah.
I think it's like maybe a few dollars to get.
You can't tax a church. Nobody can tax.
I didn't say you could tax a church.
Well, that's if you say it's a few dollars, you can't tax a church.
That's not taxing.
Yeah, a permit is a tax.
That's paying for a permit. Taxing would be like
the Supreme Court.
So much every year.
The Supreme Court decided that a permit is a tax. I didn't just make that up. That was a Supreme Court decision.
Okay, so if I buy a gun permit, is that me paying a tax?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or is that me just paying for the permit?
Well, no, it's a tax with the regulations involved into it. But yeah, it's a tax. I mean, I didn't make this up. The Supreme Court said it. But the thing is, I'm wondering if the officers here are trained to understand these things because you sound like you don't.
Well,
and that scares me.
It sounds like you're backtracking and you're.
No, it sounds like you don't know what the trespassing law is.
Actually, I just explained it to you. You just don't want to hear it.
I looked for the ordinance, I couldn't find it. No, I want the ordinance so I can read it.
It can be verbal, it can be written, it can be a sign.
I mean, I hope
all three of those
so. Chapter 11. I imagine it's chapter 11.
A lot like you're trying to cherry pick the laws to fit what your narrative.
No, if there's not a law that exists, we can't lobby against it.
Well, trespassing is a law.
Well, that's what. If you're enforcing trespassing to the letter of law, then that would not be a problem.
So,
and I probably wouldn't have got these 30 different reports.
And sign. That's that could all three be considered as a means to say they don't want trespassing, right?
I mean, I don't have to read your law. Apparently, you don't know what it is, so I have to find it myself. Because here's your solicit panhandling law, and it definitely doesn't read as you said, so you haven't read that in a while.
Panhandling?
Yeah, your solicitation and begging regulation, right here, section 11.5, public solicitation.
For money or anything like that?
Accosting is one thing. You have begging, solicitor, panhandle. Use of the spoken, written, or printed word or other acts as are conducted in the furtherance of the purpose of immediately collecting contributions for the use of oneself or others.
So just what I said.
Well, we have a QR code.
So exactly.
So no, we have a QR code on our signs.
So exactly what I said.
No, because a QR code.
Here's what I think. Here's what happens is you can't just cherry pick which ones of the laws you like and which parts, right?
It sounds like that's what you're doing.
I've explained to you what trespassing is. I've explained to you what panhandling is. I've explained to you what soliciting is, but it's like you just don't want to hear it.
Well, I've heard you loud and clear.
So every state, every city has different things.
I don't think you know the elements. I think that you might be the type of cop that looks it up when you arrest people.
Okay, so if I decide to arrest you for trespassing,
yeah.
What is the elements?
Well, first off, you would have to have. Well, let me look it for you.
You had to been told to leave, right?
Yeah, for sure. That'd be a warning.
There's a sign that says no trespassing, right?
Sure, yeah.
Or you hopped over a gate that clearly is to keep people out, right?
Correct. That makes perfect sense.
Because you got first degree and you got second degree. Do you know that?
Yes. I mean, imagine hopping over a gate would be a more degree than a first degree because it looks like there's a structure in front of you to prevent you from going in.
So if you hop over a gate, which degree of trespassing is that?
That'd probably be the higher degree since you made an extra action.
Which one?
Probably first degree. The second degree would be a lower offense.
You'd be right.
All right. So
those are elements, right?
Right. So the trespassing laws in North Carolina.
So did I not just give you the elements?
Yeah, it sounds like you know. Okay, I ain't trying to quiz you, man. This is the Quiz Academy. That's close enough. That is close enough for sure. Yeah, that's close enough. And it's not Police Academy. This isn't a test.
We got people there. We got to get.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob. Yeah, nice to meet y'all. But yeah, be good out there. And I hope the data suggests that maybe they were just false reports.
Man, there's crazy drivers on this road out here.
Crazy drivers all over America, Bob. Take care now. God bless. So we're here in Asheville, North Carolina, going into City Hall to make a public records request for the all of the trespassing interactions the police have had over the past year in Asheville, North Carolina, in efforts to find out whether they have been executing legislations in a discriminatory manner against what is believed or perceived to be homeless. Let's see how this goes. I just spoke with the city legal counsel, paralegal, very nice lady, who is equally as concerned with this as we are, so should be a pretty good interaction. Now, these doors over here. Let's go right into it. 1797 to 1883. From my understanding, the building is pretty darn old. Is it this the door over here? It's the one that's propped open here. Hey, how's it going today? I'm coming in to make a public records request with the city attorney's office. I just spoke with the paralegal there. And, okay. It's sensitive. Alright, let's keep going. Nice Art Deco building you got here.
Yeah, appreciate it. Going construction.
And then update it.
Yeah.
It's been around for a while.
Yeah. You guys know where you go to?
We don't actually. So
Anybody do the city attorney?
we're getting a public records request on the interactions between police officers and anyone for trespassing complaints.
I think, if you go to the city manager's office, they might be able to direct you to the.
Which floor is that?
Go out this door right here, talk to the elevator operator, tell them you need to go to 2, and as you get out the elevator, you'll be on the left-hand side.
Thank you so much, sir.
No worries, have a great day.
You as well now. So talk to the elevator operator. One of y'all got to be the elevator operator, right? That's got to be the guy. We're going to 2. This is old school,
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
It's the original from 1928.
1928.
First one that they put in.
This is the first elevator?
Yes, this is the very first one.
Okay.
That they going to 3.
2. Yeah, city manager's office. All right. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
City manager's office is going to be to the right, right? Oh, this direction. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. How's it going? Good morning today. I'm doing all right. My name's Pastor Andrew Stevens. I'm with the Church of Common Good. We're a national church outreach program. We work with houseless and various less than privileged people around America. We have been called to come to Asheville to get some information concerning a publication that we work on, which deals with homeless rights, or rights of people who are disheveled and appear to be homeless. The reports we have gotten is that the police department in Asheville has been improperly executing the legislation of trespass. So where the legislation has certain elements and reads a certain way, it was approved by council or by the state in this case, is a penal code. The execution of said legislation has been done maliciously. So we are going to make a records request to receive the records of all trespass interactions, or a complaint for trespass within the city of Asheville, so we can see the parties, because what we have found is that while there are executing color of law orders to leave properties, we have not found, and we have done our own data, that the authorized agent of property is the one making that request, which is one of the requirements of trespass. So the people who are then interacting with the police department or the police officer are inclined to just do what is told of them without any opposition. So there's no charge, which means no judge has looked at it, which means no one's been convicted, which means there's no appellate cases, so we cannot have accountability without a process. So that leads our group to implore on how often a gentleman with a gun, a badge, and the power of arrest is advising someone to move along on property that would typically they would be protected through 13th and 14th Amendments, and those amendments protect our freedom of movement into ingress and egress all states equally. So it seems as though those amendments are being set aside. Yes, it's violated. I hate the word violated, but yes, they're for the looked over for the purpose of peacekeeping, which is a moral purpose. I mean, to make whoever is complaining happy. I get the morality and the want, the desire to do that, but when you're dealing with people who don't have a lot of money, don't have lawyers on standby, don't have slush funds, they have nothing like that, so they will just do as told. And that violates their rights. And I talked to your city legal department today, who said, yes, here, Asheville. She's a paralegal, I guess, lady.
Michelle Smith.
Yeah, Michelle. Okay. So Michelle said that the attorney that I need to talk to is the city
attorney.
Well, she told me there's the different ones that have different.
Different titles.
Yeah, and she said the one that I need to talk to specifically would be is not in our building right now, but he might come back.
Did she say his name?
She definitely did say his name.
Was it John?
What was the last name? I remember the last name you said that. I mean, I recorded the call so I could check and read it. I could listen to it and find out.
Well, that would either be Eric.
Hello, how may I help you?
Eric Edgerton.
What's his position?
Eric Edgerton. He's assistant city attorney.
It might be him.
John Maddox, the city.
That's him. John Maddox. Mr. Maddox is what she called him. So Mr. Maddox, apparently, is not in the office right now, is what she's saying, and that he might come back today. So we came down here. I'll tell you how I got to City Hall. Is that I talked to Stromolo, Officer Stromolo, who's a beat cop. He was in the parking lot at 800 Fairview, which is a property called, River Ridge Shopping Center. It was owned by Horn Property Management Incorporated. It's a property group for a family, Thomas G. Horn. They have been selling out and parceling out that property to various businesses for a number of years, where they've signed leases to some businesses for interior retail space. Then they have a public accessible parking lot in the front for customers. And then there's a McDonald's that bought their parcel, so they actually bought their part of that large parcel. And then when I was riding through there on an ADA compliant scooter, I have bum legs, so it's hard for me to walk long distances. And the apparent owner of the property, we don't know, pulled up on an SUV and says, "You can't ride a scooter in the center." I said, "I can ride this scooter inside a store." And he says, "No, you cannot." I said, "Well, I can't walk it, so I have to ride it. That's the reason I have it." He said, "Well, I'll just call the cops on you." I said, "We'll make this easier for you. There's a cop in the back of the parking lot. We can just talk to him about ADA, and he can explain to you what ADA is, because if you're the owner of this business, you need to know." So we go back there, and I'm talking to Stromolo, who says that if the property owner wants you to leave, you need to leave. I'm like, "Well, I was just passing through anyway, canvassing for missionary work, so I'm not trying to stay here. But this guy needs to know what ADA is, because he's violating it right now." And Stromolo said, "Well, he has private property rights." I'm like, "Well, certainly does. If he owns this parcel, he certainly does." And so I took greatest thought. Stromolo's a cop. He's got a badge. Okay, and he said, "Well, you need to leave now." So I left. I asked what the guy's name was so I could check authority. He declined to give it to me. And I told Stromolo I'd like to make a call number or a report number so I can get this guy's name, because this falls into a civil action. And Stromolo said, "I'm not going to do that for you. You need to leave. You're trespassing." So I immediately left, checked with GIS, found out that there is no one owner of that property. That's how I knew who owned every piece of the property and who actually had rights to the parking lot. Did my due diligence, which I assumed was part of the police procedures before you institute trespassing, is to find out if the complainant is the authorized agent. Seems like preliminary investigation. So I contacted Sergeant Multi. Sergeant Multi tells me he won't take a complaint on Stromolo because he didn't believe he had violated any procedural. And I said, well, fortunately, I'm a student, so I read your policies and procedure before I made this phone call. And your policies and procedures are for a preliminary investigation to make sure a complainant is the authorized agent. So he did violate policies and procedures according to your written procedures, and you're refusing to take a complaint as a watch commander. That's an odd position to be in. So I need to talk to your supervisor. He refused. He told me he had a lieutenant, somebody was a supervisor. I ended up calling the department back and talked to a lieutenant who said that he took the complaint orally over the phone and he would submit it to professional code of conduct. And that unless there was a 10-day suspension or something further, the state of North Carolina prevents any disclosure or follow-up. I said, well, that's pretty easy, file 13. If you don't have to follow up or say, here's what happened, then file 13 is just a bucket away. And so that procedure leaves a lot to be desired for someone who's trying to find out whether the reports are true or not. So the reports to us were that there are improper execution of legislation. And what I saw firsthand was improper execution of legislation. So I talked to Stromolo again this morning. He said, so I asked him, and I recorded this whole conversation, how did you know that this was the authorized agent of the property? Because you're running me off. He says, well, he's told me he is. And so the complainant tells you that they own or authorized agent of the property, and you do no follow-up. And you just take that as face value. And he said, yes, I do. I'm like, well, that's convenient. Because people have something against homeless. There are some people with stigmas. So there's a stigma on this particular classification of society. And for someone who might say, I own something, doesn't mean they own something. And we have assumed authority going on all over America, which violates 13th and 4th Amendment rights. You know, anytime you have an illegal detainer, you're starting to violate the freedom of movement. So that brings me to wondering if it's a systemic issue. So I talked to Officer Nee last night, who is another officer of the department, who's sitting in Cole's parking lot. He had his partner with him. And I asked him a little bit about trespassing law in Asheville, North Carolina. He tells me that they have a letter of intent with private businesses that allows them to arrest people for trespassing after hours. I said, well, that's an interesting letter of intent because I've read these letter of intents many times. And they usually allow you to arrest someone for violating the law. But trespassing it requires a warning from an authorized agent. If you're the authorized agent at night to trespass somebody from a property, that would make you a detail officer, which means my tax dollars wouldn't be paying for your time to patrol and trespass them off the property. Unless they were committing a crime, I wouldn't be paid a foot in that bill. The business would have that expenditure, and they'd have to hire private security. He said, no, that's not how it works. In the city of Asheville, we can arrest people for trespassing off of private property with public access at night on the request of the business. And that to me, is a gross misunderstanding on how trespassing works.
All right.
That kind of what brings us here.
I pretty much believe that I got the logistics of everything.
Perfect, okay. I just want you to know all the parties about why I'm here and not talking to one of them, you know?
And I do understand.
Yeah.
So the next step that you really want to take is what?
Well, so
because,
I don't want to try. I'll tell you.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, go ahead.
And I heard you say that you actually have copies of all of our, you know what I mean?
No, I'm making a public request.
Moves.
You say moves.
Have you looked at our municipal codes for the city of Asheville?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And it's very good for you to have a copy of that to take it, and it's also very good for you to actually get an appointment with John Maddox.
John Maddox?
Yes.
Then it's,
you can actually request a meeting with him.
Now we do have to be in a revival that's 100 miles away in 3 days, so we have to keep moving. We are a SOAR program,
right.
So usually that's why it's impulsive sometimes is when I show up.
I do understand. Are you able to meet with him virtually?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
you could do that. I would definitely request that meeting through Michelle Smith.
Okay.
Talk with Michelle Smith.
So she said she didn't have Mr. Maddox get a hold of me, so I guess that's a request, right?
That's a request, but I would actually set a meeting.
A date for a meeting,
Have
yeah.
her set a meeting for you.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because you want that tangible, you know what I mean? That type of communication.
Yeah.
So it'll be beneficial for you and your, I'm going to say, and I hate to use that word claim.
Right.
But you'll actually...
Because it wasn't my claim. I'm following up on claims.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because you're actually going to be putting in a request for information.
Yes.
Correct?
But public records request I can make right here.
Yes.
I make that right here.
Correct.
Okay.
You can do that, you know what I mean, through our legal department, through Michelle, because it's on the legal scale of it.
Right.
Okay? It would not be up under our city clerks.
Well, public records request would go through there, so that way it's
Clerks, yes.
right, and then go to her. She said she would handle it. Like the department, yeah.
There you go.
But it had. She wanted to go, yeah, because we're pretty familiar with records requests. Typically, they're very informal. Yeah. So if you in the state of North Carolina, I could really make a phone call and ask somebody to send me public records to a certain email address, and according to the law, that's something that should be done. But if you have a form, I'd be happy to fill one out.
I would implore you to fill this out, make a copy of it.
Okay.
And then you're going to take it over to next door to the Asheville Police Department. You're going to go into the Professional Standards Department. Because when you leave here and you go out the front door and you walk straight, and when you cross that street, you see the fire department, the police department. You go through that door, the police department is right. Professional Standards is straight ahead.
Okay.
First door, straight ahead. Okay. I believe you ring a bell, someone come out, but you want to fill that out.
So that way they have it.
And then you're going to have this and take a picture of it, like I said, you know. And
we see if there's a constant problem, yeah.
Giving you, you know what I mean, records.
Right.
Okay. Right. Once you get all of that done, from the process, what the officer was talking about as far as the follow-up, 10 days, I think you said.
He says if he wasn't suspended for over 10 days, we would never know.
And that's what I'm saying. Boom. Professional standards.
Gotcha.
Have to get involved.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Makes sense.
So you won't cover all those bases.
I understand why police would try to keep this from being unlight. I get it.
Right.
But I mean, in Asheville, I've noticed the city manager is interested in proper policing of homeless population or less than fortunate population. So it is a focal point, and I want to make sure that data is available. Yeah.
Well, this one point is that the mayor and city manager, they have a very invested interest because they want to treat everyone equitably and fairly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So they do put our organizations on high alert to do that. So they do invest a lot of time into that, and if you did not know, they just invested time in our homeless community.
I heard. $770,000. Yep.
And we actually going to be putting all the homeless individuals in hotels right now.
Get them housed? Do they want to be? Because here's one thing we found is that California is one of our areas that we go to, and when we interview people on the streets in California, a lot of times people are telling me, well, the climate's good. I don't want to have the responsibilities of being under a roof. And I was like, well, there's no law that requires you to have a house. Because matter of fact, humans were always nomadic until we started colonializing.
This is another option that they have.
But then the option doesn't, if they deny the option, they don't get locked up. Okay, because I've seen that happen too. Okay. It's just an option. They could come off the street. You're giving them the ability to make a decision.
Yes. And personally, when it comes to the private property section of it, especially in the city of Asheville, I can't speak too much on it. I would actually advise you to definitely speak with John Maddox and then our legal department. Okay. Because I don't want to give you any information that
you're not a lawyer, yeah.
In any way. Right. And so.
Are you running for office? Because you have a great charming personality, bub. You think you do good out there. You really would.
Like you, I'm a minister.
Okay. So you work within the body of Christ.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. We definitely need people out working in the body of Christ, especially now because a lot of these youngins, they are confused. Yes. So, God bless you, sir. You have a good day today. I don't know. I don't know if I hit a button or a call button. It says call button right here to this. If you have, I was sent by the city manager's office to the professional standards building, or Coder Office of Professional Standards.
Okay.
He pointed me this way, but I'm not really sure this is the exact right building.
No. What are they needing help with?
A citizen complaint on police misconduct. And there's Office of Public Standards. I was at the city manager's office.
Okay. They might be wanting you to talk to professional standards.
That's it. Professional standards.
Professional
Yes.
standards. Okay. Let me see. One second. What's your name?
I'm Pastor Andrew.
Pastor Andrew.
You might talk to me. Did I talk to you?
No, not
Okay, yeah.
One second.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So I'm trying to run around and see if I can find him. Everyone's out for lunch. Do you have Lieutenant Sorrell information?
Oh, I talked to Lieutenant Sorrell this morning. He is with them?
Yes. He's
Oh.
so he's going to be the person that you're going to want to talk to.
Oh, well, I talked to him this morning. Okay. I was afraid I didn't go to the right person. Thank you so much.
No problem. Y'all have a good day.
You as well now.
Thank you.
So did she say how long you will be out?
What do you mean?
So we got to talk to the guy.
Let's see here. Looks like we've got an audit. I'm headed over here right now. Hey, you familiar with the solicitation law here in Asheville?
I am.
Have you read it lately?
I've read many citations.
All right, so the GS code, which actually supports the nature of the law, actually says it is legal for somebody to solicit for the benefit of one person's or any other person's.
Okay.
All right, we're a church, the Church of Common Good, right?
You have a permit, sir?
Oh, we have it. We are a church.
You need a permit by the city?
You may not. First off, you may not. We're not begging and soliciting. This says the Lord Jesus Christ is a transient.
Okay.
That is a statement that is out of the Bible.
Okay.
That is not solicitation.
Okay.
But we do know that Asheville, North Carolina, has been applying their laws improperly. Matter of fact, I just got done talking to Maddox today.
Okay.
So Mr. Maddox and me are very, very much in communication.
Okay.
I've talked to Sergeant Multy.
Okay.
I've talked to Sergeant Montgomery.
Cool.
Talked to Lieutenant Sorrell this morning.
Okay, cool.
All right, and we have an investigation going on by the Professional Standards Division.
Okay. So
All right.
Here's the one thing.
I've also been at City Manager's office.
Okay.
City Manager was awesome. See, he's awesome. He actually told me that the clerk is also a pastor, just like myself, which is great.
City manager's a male?
Well, I don't know the manager. I talked to the clerk out front, the black guy, really nice guy.
Okay, that's not
Super,
the manager,
super. No, his clerk. It's the manager wasn't in today. His clerk was out front. Great guy. He's a pastor as well at church.
Okay.
All right, so we had a long discussion about how solicitation, because we're the Pastors' Rights Group.
Sure.
So we go around the country to find out if police are coming against churches. Now,
Okay.
if you're holding a sign that says Jesus loves you, God loves you, Jesus is the way to salvation, whatever you say, right? That's not a solicitation. It's not asking for anything. It's not a solicitation. It's not asking for anything. If someone chooses to donate to the church out of their own will, without any request whatsoever of that donation, that does not fall into solicitation anywhere in this country. But police sometimes are trained in ways to harass what they consider to be homeless.
I'm not harassing anyone, sir.
Oh.
I'm upholding the law, and this is also a business. Let me just...
No, that's the right of way.
No, let me explain something to you. So there's a city ordinance also, where you cannot apply a sign for contributions.
Yeah, 4 contributions. 4 contributions.
Within 1,000 foot of a business.
Where's that at? I've looked at the
City
ordinance.
ordinance.
Well, I looked up. See, we had one of our auditors already come back.
Okay.
All right, so as soon as he came back, I looked up your ordinances and I read them. I printed them out.
Okay.
You tell me which ordinance that is, because I looked them up just fine.
Okay. Hold on a second.
Yep. Yeah, you're fine. He's going to show me which ordinance this is that has 1,000 foot from a business. I'm assuming it's for solicitation, which is defined as well. But we got to find this ordinance because I couldn't find it at all. I saw a long list of things.
Let me explain right here. So it doesn't give me a number whenever.
But you just gave us a number.
Let me explain something.
Yeah.
So in my system, which is in North Carolina, the court system,
yeah,
it doesn't give me a number.
I know it doesn't.
It does say right here, local city ordinance.
Yep.
Solicit arms or beg for money.
Yes,
okay.
Which that is not going to fall under propagation of religion.
Okay. And then soliciting from a highway, which is a general statute, stand in a portion of a street highway other than a shoulder
sure.
for the purpose of soliciting a ride from the driver or a motor vehicle.
Okay.
Or pedestrian soliciting business or funds. Then stand, loiter in the main portion of a traveled portion, or on the shoulders or the median of a state highway or street.
Sure.
Or stop a motor vehicle for the purpose of soliciting employment business contributions from the driver or occupants of a motor vehicle.
Sure.
Thus impeding the normal flow of traffic.
So you're talking about traffic flow issues.
Sure.
So ordinance has to be narrowly tailored to meet the needs of their cities, right? And you're talking about the public safety of it, because that's what the Supreme Court has ruled, that a city may regulate its population to be safe and control the public safety. So traffic flow issues have been upheld in Supreme Court. But a traffic flow issue has to be met by the spirit of the law, which means there has to be a traffic flow issue.
That's right.
So
I told him, I said, sir, you cannot hold that sign there. He said he can.
Yes.
So I said, if I see you solicit from it, listen.
So what did you tell us? You're defining, how can he solicit with a sign that's not soliciting?
Well, let me ask you something. I said that if he stands there, the solicits means if he asks for contributions or in this way, impedes the flow of traffic in any way, form, or fashion, in my opinion, and I see it, it would be issued a citation or he could be arrested.
So you sit somewhere. So because I want you to be clear what you know what harassment is.
It's not harassment.
So no, you haven't seen you have not seen a crime committed.
Not yet. But I'm also in a public place.
So you're on private. No, this is private property on public access.
I work for Walmart at this time.
You're a detail officer.
I'm working a secondary employment currently for Walmart, which gives me grounds to be here. Just like
what's your badge number?
3077.
3077. Your name was? I didn't hear that. Stroop. T-S-S-T-R-O-U-P. P-E. Okay, P. S-T-R-O-U-P.
And I'll explain to you. Right now, I have proper grounds to be here. This is a public vehicular area. So I have just
public access. Exactly. Sure. But if you sit around, when you don't see someone commit crime, you sit around and harass them. Okay. That's illegal. That's against your procedural. Yes, it is.
I can park here as long as I want to. Okay. I can observe.
You threaten if somebody gave him a donation, you would arrest him. That's what you told him.
But if it impedes the flow of traffic.
If it impedes the flow of traffic.
So if he's right there, there's people behind him. And there's no other vehicles there.
Yeah, that stop sign.
Let me explain.
What's that stop sign?
Let me explain something. But if there's no traffic around and it is impeding the flow of traffic from the person behind that vehicle, and it's preventing that person from continuing how they should be in the normal flow of traffic, which means stop, make sure there's no other vehicles coming and they're pursuing. Then, if he's stopped and is giving his attention towards,
let me talk to your supervisor.
Okay.
Yep. Let me call your supervisor.
I don't have.
That's a public.
My supervisor's technically off my direct.
No, your supervisor's not off.
Sir, I can give you my non.
I'm gonna call Lieutenant Lowe. There's a named Lindsay. I think is lieutenant, the female lieutenant.
We don't have a lieutenant Lindsay.
You have a female lieutenant. I just talked to his wife.
You're right.
Yeah, you have one. I just talked to his dad. I'm trying to remember who she is.
Sir, let me explain something. If you want to talk to my supervisor, you can call into our non-emergency number, and they'll.
Call in a non-emergency number and send a supervisor over here. Call in the police department, non-emergency, and have a supervisor come out here. This gentleman needs to learn a little bit more about how the law is applied.
I'll be able to call.
Thank you so much. We have squad number 25191. Officer Stroop, S-T-R-O-U-P-E. Let me see your sign. So here's a sign. The Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Luke 9:58. Yep. He says he's working a detail job for Walmart. So I want to make sure that I'm not Walmart property in case that's the next one. So apparently he's not on duty. He's working a detail job for Walmart. That's the claim.
In a officer's uniform.
He can do that as long as they're paying for detail. Well, we're having a supervisor come out. I want to talk to the supervisor about it. Carolina, I knew this would give me good footage. All right. See your sign again. Here comes Sarge.
I've got a sergeant en route. He's actually our community outreach sergeant.
That's great.
A little bit more to you.
That's great. That's perfect.
I think this officer actually spoke to one of you guys yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I met him last night. Let's be honest though. Don't make up fables because we have it on videotape. What did you say the law was? Tell them about that 1,000-foot law you told us about.
Yeah, the city ordinance of 1,000 foot within a business.
You tell them that number for him, so he knows that number because
He works for here too, Andy.
Yeah, but there is none. That ordinance doesn't exist. You just made that up. Yeah, we don't like people who use the color of law in a way that's not within the spirit of the law. I wasn't mean, was I? I wasn't mean to y'all, was I? I took a lot of your time up, but I wasn't mean, though. See the sign again? Hey Sarge, I'm just listening, capturing audio. I got to capture audio.
That's fine.
Oh, certainly.
How you doing? All right. Pretty good. Can you also see if they're on their property as well? If they want all three of them banned?
Oh, this is Walmart property because the GIS map says it's not.
Give us just a minute.
Yeah. Because according to your GIS maps, this is public easement.
Really?
Yeah.
Y'all are assholes.
We're auditing police officers for doing their job correctly. Somebody has to.
Yeah.
Somebody has to audit to make sure you're doing the job
Obviously
correctly.
Obviously not.
Yeah.
It's really sad. I wish y'all had something.
This is not. You want to pull up GIS to certify that? No. So she is not GIS. This is public easement. GIS is public. Okay, because this is public easement right here. Public easement. I'll pull up GIS. I'll go pull up GIS real quick. I'll print out a GIS map real quick for them. Yeah, I'll pull up a GIS map for you if you want me to real quick. I can pull it up. Hold that real quick. I'm going to go get GIS maps.
Right here.
Oh, am I being detained?
Yes, right now.
Suspicion of what crime? Suspicion of what crime?
Okay, right here.
Well, you're detaining me, so now you're not letting me be free. My own court is not. There's no longer a cooperative interaction. You're detaining me. What's the suspicion of what crime? Me.
Now you're being detained.
For what? Suspicion of what crime? Suspicion of what crime? Suspicion of what crime?
I just told you.
So you can warn somebody to leave. You cannot trespass someone without asking them to leave first.
You think what's going on, but right now you're being detained.
Suspicion of what crime?
I just told you.
This guy's detaining me on suspicion of what crime? He said that you have a crime this is to detain me for? Okay. Perfect. So am I detained now? Because he's asking people to leave.
He's going to explain. He's going to talk to you. Well, okay. You requested a sergeant. That's what I got you. Is that correct?
So you want to leave?
Oh, absolutely. If the sergeant tells you to leave public property, absolutely. Absolutely. If the sergeant tells you that's all you need, bub, that's supervisor. That's all you had to have.
Sir?
Yes, sir.
I need you to also leave the premises immediately.
No problem.
Stay
Have
off
a good
the
one.
mulch.
Have a good one. Sergeant who? What's your name? Sergeant what?
Joshua Veridal.
Joshua Veridal. Can I get your badge number, please?
I have a personnel number.
Personnel.
2447.
2447?
Yes, sir.
Joshua Veridal, 2447?
Yep.
All right, so, okay, and so Sorrell's one working with this, so we have this through the public.
I'm familiar.
You know who Sorrell is? So you're familiar with what's going on? And you don't think this is public easement?
Have a good day.
Yeah. Walmart. That was a Walmart. Alright. I saved it because I can't see very well, so I saved it so I can refer to it in a minute.
Right now.
So no, it is not on the property. It is not on the Walmart property. Absolutely not.
And they wouldn't listen to us and look it up. They just said, well, you said...
Yes, I'm having a little bit of problems. Who's your highest level supervisor right now? Since it's before 5 o'clock, I assume you have a lieutenant there still? What? Survey lines are a pretty permanent thing that are there, and your sergeant Visueldo, or I don't know his last name, Visuelo, with under the color of law, he claimed trespassing for Walmart on property that was public easement. After telling him that the GIS maps clearly define that property as public easement, he did not care and just basically threatened and bullied people who leave property in public easement under trespassing orders requested by Walmart, which while we're telling him you need to check that on GIS maps, that's not Walmart property, and we are here to study trespassing and how it's being utilized in Asheville. It's taking us no time to see that our reports were authentic, that this is exactly what's going on in Asheville. My name is Pastor Andrew, and I do not want to talk to the sergeant again. I want to talk to his superior.
What are people saying about Zaxby's new signature sandwich?
It is. All right, I appreciate. I want that to be done today because we have to leave town. But I need to know that this is dealt with. It's unacceptable to try to trespass someone from public easement off of private property rights. It's unacceptable. Thank you. So yes, as I stated, that is public easement, not Walmart's property, and that gentleman absolutely violated our 13th, 14th Amendment rights. 100% assumed authority, 100% liability, and it was Walmart staff that did it, so it was a Walmart lawsuit.